Friends, I hate to bring you more bad news, but we do have a big update that we need to talk about right now, and that is that in addition to all this catastrophic storm damage across the southeast of the United States, we have the longshoremen strike starting this evening. And everything that we're seeing out there, from the ILA president to everyone else out there, it seems like this is going to start at midnight tonight, and that is going to stop all containerized traffic across the East Coast, essentially. We have about 50%, anywhere between 40 to 46% of the containerized traffic across the United States is going to come to a halt starting this evening. Anything trying to get off the port, trying to get into the ports, this is all going to stop. I want to give you updates coming straight from the lips of the president of the ILA, give you the most firsthand, best information I possibly can, which is what we try to do here. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. I am over in, where am I now? Pamplona. We're trying to get you updated with everything that's going on. I'm a little ahead of you on time, so I'm able to kind of get this summarized for you. But by the time this happens, midnight tonight, it will already be impacting supply chains. We got a bunch of updates coming for you tomorrow morning about what's going on across the southeast with supply chains. We got some insider information from Ingalls. We got some other grocery stores as well to discuss. That we have people inside the supply chain, inside the networks, telling us what's going on, what's going wrong, what do they have to fix. You're going to want to check that out too. All right, friends. So let's start here. The president of the ILA, Harold Daggett, basically this guy, I listened to an interview with him. It was just in the last couple of days. I forget exactly when. But basically he was representing 45,000 dock workers across the United States, across the southeast, from Houston up to up the East Coast. We're talking major ports all over the place that handle 40 to 46% of the containerized traffic. Now that changes a little bit depending on which month we're talking about. So one month it might be a little less, one month it might be a little more. That's why it's kind of, everyone's saying like about 50%. It's not a super stable number. This is what he's saying. My ILA members are not going to accept these insulting offers that are a joke, considering the work my ILA longshore workers perform and the billion-dollar profits the companies make off the backs of their labor. So this is very, very recent. We have quotes coming in straight from the last couple of hours and over the past day. Basically, they're saying that there are no legitimate talks happening out there. On the other side, the USMX, or the U.S. Maritime Alliance, basically the other side of the contract negotiation, it's a bunch of ports and whatever that negotiate with the ILA. On behalf of all the different ports and businesses and all that kind of stuff. So these guys all band together to form the U.S. Maritime Alliance in order to negotiate with the ILA, which is banding together of all the longshoremen to negotiate there. So basically, we can see that there is no friendliness happening right now. Just 4 days ago, USMX just launched a lawsuit for what did they do it? Unfair labor practice charges, against the ILA. So you can tell that they're not really in good faith discussing things if they're launching brand new lawsuits against each other as we speak. Also, USMX is saying basically, we're ready to negotiate at any time that the ILA is willing to negotiate. Now, when you're like hours away from a port shutdown, that's not what you want to hear from one of the sides, where they're saying, we're ready to start negotiating at any time. That really clearly makes the point that no serious, real negotiations are happening at this time. ILA is pushing for a 70+% increase in pay over the next, I think, 6 years, which, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but then if you look at like how long of a time period we're spreading that over, it's not as nearly bad as it sounds. But with inflation the way it's going, how much should you get paid 6 years from now? How much is your dollar going to be worth? If you're getting paid $50,000 this year, well, 6 years from now, is $50,000 going to get you a hamburger at McDonald's? You don't know, right? So you need to factor in the inflation out there that is going out of control. So, and of course, that's a negotiation point. That's like, this is what we want. And they'll probably agree to something lower, but they need an offer that's kind of meeting them halfway or kind of getting up towards that. We don't know exactly what their secret number is of what they'd be willing to accept. We just know their opening offer, so to speak. Whereas the USMX is offering them like something like 25% over the next 6 years. Not 25% each year, but 25% between here and 6 years from now, right? So we have no real negotiations happening. ILA president is basically saying the same thing. He's saying they're making joke offers, that they're not entering into any serious consultation. Basically, they're making offers over paper, and then the ILA is basically just rejecting them outright. And there is no, okay, that's close, let's talk about it, let's fix that to make sure that it's where it needs to be. Let's give a little here and get a little there, right? There's none of that happening right now. There's no back and forth. Also very telling. President Daggett basically saying that they're not going to make the same mistake that the West Coast made. We just had that longshoreman strike over on the West Coast not too long ago, remember? And that was going to be a really big deal. And then they ended up actually coming to a settlement. They actually made an agreement. And basically what Daggett is saying is that he thinks that they got ripped off. He thinks they got ripped off, and he doesn't want to see the East Coast folks getting the same deal. And basically what he said was that the West Coast, they didn't really realize how much power they had. They didn't really realize how much leverage the longshoremen really have. And so basically he said, we on the East Coast are going to show the world how much leverage we really have. And so that really kind of points to the fact that he, now it may just be a negotiation tactic, it may be, but it sounds like he really wants to go into this. Now, if your leader doesn't sound like they want to go into the strike, if they sound like they're scared or that they're afraid or something like that, that's probably a bad leader in the first place. But that's my read of the situation. Is it looks like he's chomping for a fight. He wants to not only win good for his people, but it sounds like he wants to also kind of fire a shot across the bow of big corporations that are not paying out their labor unions and their workers enough, in his opinion, right? Now, you may agree with him, you may disagree with him, you may be like, well, I sort of agree with some points. That I'm not talking about that. I'm not sharing with you what I think about it. I don't know enough about how much they get paid and how much work they do and all that kind of stuff like that. But what we're looking at here is the fact that if they think they're not getting paid enough and they're willing to fight for it, they can shut down these ports. And they've already said that if they're ordered by the federal government to show up at work, if they're forced by the federal government to work even while they're on strike, they will move so slow that it will be like as if they're still on strike. That's what they've said. This is going to really impact particularly the Southeast. Now, what moves in containerized shipping? One of the things I said on the thumbnail that this has already begun, and it has, because as of late last week, they actually started rejecting refrigerated goods. So you had the reefers coming in, the containers that have the AC units on them to be refrigerated, right? But they take some tasking. You have to make sure that they stay topped up on fuel so that they continue to stay cold. You also have to check them every so often, make sure that their temperature is still where it needs to be, all that kind of stuff like that. And there won't be workers to do that, so they've been rejecting reefers. So the reefers haven't been coming in for the last number of days. They've made sure that the reefers that came in got off the port and moved on through. So basically, when you look at fresh fruits that come from overseas, a lot of times when you see like we have grapes that come in from Ecuador. We got bananas that come in from everywhere other than the United States. Bananas don't come from the United States. So all that stuff's got to come in somehow. And they pick it while it's still green, the bananas. They pick the fruit while it's still not ripe yet, and then they let it ripen as it travels. So a lot of that stuff coming in. We got a lot of meat coming in from overseas. We got a lot of food products coming from overseas, and that's going to definitely impact a lot of the issues with the supply chain that's already damaged by the storm. Basically, this is going to make things twice as bad. And this is not going to, flood people's homes. But when it comes to the supply chain, this is going to make the supply chain issue twice as bad. Because as they're going to try to pull from the ports, they're not going to get anything from the ports. Now, things that come in on containers through the ports are not like super time-sensitive stuff. Like the produce is, but a lot of the stuff that comes in is stuff that, there's some wiggle room on how long it takes to get through the ports, how long the ships, but you better believe that these freight companies and these retailers that are looking for the stuff, trying to get all their Christmas goods in, get all their Christmas present materials, get all of that stuff in. They've known this is happening, and they've been putting rush orders to get China to ship all this stuff to the East Coast because they know that this is coming. And they knew that they did not want to have their shipment on a ship sitting off one of these East Coast ports waiting for weeks to get unloaded. If it's fresh produce, obviously you don't want that. But if you're talking about things like just stuff that needs to come in on regular shipping containers, you don't want your stuff sitting out there anyway. That's big money, right? You'd rather have that know ahead of time and have diverted that to a port that was not going to be impacted by these strikes. So we have a lot of stuff that's already been diverted. For about a month now, we've been seeing Chinese shipments being diverted away from the East Coast ports because, it takes a couple weeks to get from China over to the East Coast. We also have ships coming in from Europe, Middle East, all that. They've been diverting away from these ports. Now, some of you guys did ask about natural gas and fuel shipments and stuff like that. To the best of my knowledge, from my understanding of this, those use different workers, and so those are different terminals than these containerized shippings. We're talking about the longshoremen are basically the ones unloading and loading the containers for the most part. It may impact some other dry goods and stuff like that, but it seems like we're just talking about containers at this point. So oil and gas should still keep moving. The gas going over to Europe should keep flowing. Of course, with Ukraine shutting down that one pipeline going to Eastern Europe, of course, that's very, very important that they keep their natural gas flowing from the U.S. Since they're not going to be getting any from Russia this winter. I believe that starts January 1st is when the shutdown happens on that, and Russia's been saying that they don't really care. Of course, they don't really have a decision in the matter, so it's kind of a, maybe they're just pretending like they don't care. But it is a large portion of the exports of natural gas from Russia, and it means that a lot of countries that get a lot of natural gas from Russia still are going to be needing a lot of natural gas from elsewhere. Now, the last two winters, they've managed to scrape together enough fuel from here and there. They've had very mild winters the last 2 years, though. So hopefully they haven't overestimated their ability to keep everyone warm and keep the lights on. All right, friends, those are the latest updates I have for you about the longshoremen strike. Of course, we'll start talking about the impacts as we start seeing them. But tomorrow morning, we're going to really be focusing in on a lot of your reports coming in from all over the Southeast, particularly those of you in supply chain positions. We're also going to talk a lot about volunteers and how that kind of works as well, because I have my background in disaster relief, of course. So I'm going to be giving you some ideas on some of those things. Once again, Pinball is raising money out there. I know he's gotten a whole bunch of money. Maybe he needs more help to organize that kind of thing. I don't know. But check out what Pinball's doing out there. Grindstone, I believe, is moving forward too. That's Bear Independent. Those are the YouTube channel names out there. But then faith-based, I'd highly recommend any of the Southern Baptist disaster relief organizations, which is usually the states. So you can give to those states if you want to give to faith. If you don't want to give to Southern Baptist, then you can give to Salvation Armies. These are going to be the biggest bang for your bucks because they already have the equipment, they already have the volunteers, all that kind of stuff. Your money is going to go straight into resources provided for people. If you don't want to give to faith at all, you want to give to a secular nonprofit, American Red Cross does a fairly good job. They have a pretty big overhead, but they're the best non-faith-based organization that I am aware of, that I've seen in the field. So American Red Cross, definitely a good organization too to be giving to. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.